and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Jawn Street Hockey. I'm your host, the Mayor of Jawn Street, coming at you live from the Hurt Locker, and I'm joined by my buddy. They call him Curly, I call him Kevin. That is Kevin Curly. Kevin, how are we doing, brother?
The intro gets me really hype and gets me really going, and then I think of the current
Think about
state
the
of the
team?
team, and it brings me right back to reality. But now I'm doing good.
That's why I drink.
Little whiskey.
Yep, a little whiskey ginger, a little Jameson and ginger. All right, guys, get down to business here. Don't forget, if you're not already, what are you waiting for? Follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Facebook.com/Jawn Street Hockey. On Twitter at Jawn Street Hockey. That's Jawn ST Hockey on Twitter. Jawn Street Hockey. And get down to business here. Get some of the advertisement taken care of. Shout out Frank the Animal Bialowis. If you're in the tri-state area, you need any kind of concrete work done, go ahead and call up our good buddy Frank or hit him up on www.byallawisconcrete.com. And also, don't forget to check out Body Check Wellness. Use promo code OCS, that is Old City Sports. Promo code OCS, 25% off all your CBD needs. Check all those aches and pains and achy joints into the boards with Body Check Wellness. So, getting right into it, let's start going over the last few days of Flyers hockey here. 3 straight losses.
Yeah, well, shocker. Haha. Two of the losses
came Carolina first. I think Jesse and them covered Florida on the Flyers alley.
Yeah, I wasn't going to go too deep into the Florida game, but I was just going to mention that they did lose 6-3 against Florida, and then 3-1 against Carolina, and then 4-3 against Montreal, which is really just the absolute mind-blowing one here. The first two, not a surprise at all.
One thing about Florida. The game was a lot more competitive than the score was in the end.
No, like I said, I'm not going to rip the team for losing to Florida because I know what we are and I know what Florida is. I'm just saying
Florida's
it's not a shock.
This year.
It's not a shock to see that we would have lost at least 2 out of these last 3 games, and then what happened to be 3 out of 3. So nothing too shocking there. The Carolina game was close, pretty much up until the end. Carolina just being the better team pulled that one out in the end. It's really the Montreal one for me that really kind of like put the bad taste in my mouth. You're up 3-2 in less than a minute left, and you're on the power play, and you somehow manage to give up a shorthanded goal and then go on to lose in overtime. And I just want to play the clip real quick of that game tying goal at the end and just tell me what you noticed about it.
But they don't possess the puck for very long. Here come the Canadians, and there goes Montembeault. So the extra attackers back up. The Canadians, here's Petrie, all the way in. The centering pass blocked off. Flyers, though, don't get it. Ristolainen is down. They get it in front and score! Pitlick ties the game. Ristolainen went into the boards, couldn't get up. And the shorthanded goal with a goalie pulled ties the game at 3.
All right. Our good buddy Jesse Bell checking in. Shout out the Admiral. Hearing a lot of rumors that Florida is going to flip Girouxs from the Habs. They just got to Philly for Claude Giroux and some other assets. I wouldn't hate that. I think Girouxs would be a great addition to the Flyers, particularly.
He would definitely be an upgrade.
There's some term on his contract.
Well, he would definitely be an upgrade, that's for sure.
Absolutely. So you want to know what I noticed about that game, or about that particular game-tying goal. And in particular, I noticed, one, Ristolainen's down on the ice for far too long. You got to earn that extension, bud. But also, I noticed there's tons of guys out of position. At one point, you have 3 Flyers down below the goal line, which is what ultimately opens it up for that pass to the point. And then, towards the end of the play, obviously gets buried by former Flyer Tyler Pitlick. By the way, a guy who I really wish we never would have lost. He was a great high motor guy, pretty skilled, third line type of guy. So those are just a couple of things that stand out to me there on that particular goal.
Yeah, and I think you hit it, the nail on the head with Ristolani. He goes down, he does kind of overcommit, but he does make the pass block initially. When he tried to center it to the middle. But then he's just down on the ice for too long, and then you have the other three guys all staring at the same guy with the puck, and everyone just kind of loses track of the man in front. And it's just it's just such the epitome of what this season and what this team has been. I would like to say it was shocking, and I was surprised that it happened, but am I at this point? Not really. It's
Right.
just
Well, and
amazing
you
the
got to think
ways
of
that
one
they
other
find
thing as
to
well.
blow the game.
So one other thing you got to think about is the fact that Montreal is kind of playing for more than we are at this point. We're beaten and downtrodden, and they just got an straight up IV injection with a brand new coach in Marty St. Louis. Not to make excuses or anything like that, but they definitely have a lot more to play for at this point. They have a guy in there that they want to win for and they want to impress, because at the end of the day, these guys are going to be battling, to try and earn their spot on the roster next year. So, Montreal's definitely got more to play for at this point.
Yeah,
I think that has a lot to do with it.
I think they've won 8 out of their last 11, and first of all, the overtime goal by Caulfield was just an absolute laser beam. He's been on fire since the coaching change, and the Flyers chose to take Cam York over Cole Caulfield, and at
I
the
still
time,
think that'll pay out. Over time, I think that'll pay out.
yeah, absolutely, York could pan out, but again, it could be another situation where the Flyers get burned in the draft. And I know every team can say that. If you look back at every team's drafting history, it's just right now with the state of the team, it would just stick out like a sore thumb more.
No, absolutely. Jesse checking in again. Congrats to the mayor for his new place. Good on you, fella. And see you on Friday. Yes, guys, don't forget, if you're out in Delco, come on out to Top Shelf. It's the bar in Iceworks Skating Plaza. Kev, you might as well flash Iceworks right now. Iceworks is a proud sponsor of Old City Sports Network and Weekdays on Jawn Street Hockey. Check them out. That is the Iceworks Skating Complex in Aston, PA. Myself, Jesse Bell, and Kevin are all going to be there this Friday. Just 2 days from now, we're covering the Flyers against the Senators, and we're watching hockey. We're talking hockey, and we're drinking, boys. We are having some ice cold beers, whiskeys, whatever you want. Come on out, have a drink with the mayor, huh? All right.
I really love the enthusiasm behind that. And yeah, I think it's going to be a good time. I can't wait.
Dude, nothing gets me going like live events.
No, yeah. I know. You are the live event guy. Well, I guess
Absolutely.
we are the live event.
Don't forget.
So
Some people like to think that they're the live event king, but
so moving on to more of
people were shown live events by other people.
I guess moving on to a little more positive of a note, right? Girouxs' 900th point. He is the second Flyer in history to accumulate such a number at 900. It's just him and Bobby Clark, who has 1,200. Giroux just getting his 900th. Good for him. He's playing his 1,000th game tomorrow. Grilled cheese for everyone. They will be selling grilled cheese tomorrow at the game in honor of Giroux's former pregame ritual. Shawn is eating a grilled cheese right now in honor of the show.
Got my grilled cheese. Shout out to the first lady. Thank you, Taylor. Love you. Great grilled cheese. By the way, straight up grilled cheese is great, but there's nothing like elevating it with a little ham.
Oh no, at that point it just becomes a hot ham and cheese. It's not a grilled cheese with ham. It's a hot ham and cheese sandwich.
That's a grilled cheese with ham, dog.
I don't know about that. We might have to put up a poll because
we'll put up a poll, but also anybody watching this right now, jump in the comment section down below and let Kevin know that he is absolutely wrong.
It's a grilled cheese. It's a hot ham and cheese. If it was not grilled, if it was just ham and cheese on bread, it would be a ham and cheese sandwich.
Yes.
It would not be a cheese sandwich with ham.
You're right.
We'll put a poll up. But yeah, Obviously, I think he did come out and say that he was really focused on getting to the 1000th game, and that after tomorrow's game, he's really going to look ahead and really have a talk with management on what I would assume is getting the ball rolling. The deadline is on the 21st. So I
Ball's
think
been rolling.
yeah, the deadline is March 21st. So it's only a few days away. He does have his family in town. I'm glad that it is at home too. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. This will be his 1000th game of his career, and the fact that he's played all 1000 in Philadelphia in Flyers orange and black, it just means a lot to me as a fan, and I know it means a lot to him. The organization that took a chance on him in the draft, and Bobby Clark didn't know how to pronounce his name at the podium, but hey, at the end of the day, he's been in Philadelphia for 1000 games. He's going to move on. We've touched on the Giroux subject, obviously in recent weeks here. But you really can't understate what Giroux has brought to this franchise. And it's just a shame that they've done a poor job as an organization of putting teams around him. But we've talked about that plenty. Shout out Claude Giroux. Shout out my captain. Congratulations on your 1000 games. And those fucking boys better get you something a little better than a Rolex, because not many people play 1000 games for one fucking team. And the organization better get you your silver stick, big dog.
And again, only him and Bobby Clark have done that, played 1,000 games. So I was walking Dom out to her car the other night, and my neighbor was out there, and we started talking. And he's definitely not a Giroux fan, that's for sure. And he's talking
Anybody that
about
knows
how
our podcast knows that.
And he starts talking about how Giroux is selfish for potentially not wanting to leave, and but he called him a accolade chaser, like a stat chaser, and said that him wanting to play 1,000 games was selfish. And it occurred to me, I was like, what other player who has played that many games for a team, has been the captain of any team in any sport for that long, is looked at by some fans as selfish for wanting to do so, and wanting to be with your team for all those years, and even now with how bad they are, still actually wanting to be here in a way. How could that? How in what world could that be considered selfish?
I'm just gonna come out and say it. I mean, Giroux haters have and always will be a very vocal, extremely small group of people who, if we're being honest, are all assholes. So the man has given all that he has to this franchise and to this city. He's embraced us every step of the way as fans. He's never. So it's never once been called into question his love of Philadelphia and his love of the city. And, I feel like there's just a group of people that hate him for no reason. And, I don't know, Embiid's had moments where he's, telling the crowd to shut the fuck up and, keep booing, boo me now, that kind of shit. You've never seen that from Giroux. All he's ever done is go out there and give 100%. He might not be an extremely vocal leader. He's not a Chris Pronger type, and I've said this before, but he's a guy that goes out there and he leads by example, and he's always done that. So, to me, that very vocal minority, I think they're going to find out very shortly just how much Giroux has meant to this team and to this city.
No, he hasn't. Hasn't what?
Yeah, you gotta be a little more specific, Chris.
It's because he's a good player. Terrible C. I just don't know what that has to do with being considered
give me an
selfish
example,
for wanting
tell me
to
why
play
he's a
with
terrible
your
captain.
team.
Chris, please tell me why he's a terrible captain.
I mean, I'm not even saying that he's in terms of people that we think as great captains, like a Dustin Brown. It's not like he was. I'm not saying that Giroux was ever ever considered one of the best captains in the league. But as far as
no, but you know what? He's been our captain, and you know what? There's different forms of leadership. You don't have to be the asshole fucking screaming in people's faces in the goddamn dressing room to get them to fucking go out and play for you. At the end of the day, Giroux leads in what I find to be the most effective way possible. He goes out there and he leads by example. This team was struggling all season. And look at the year that he's put up. Granted, the fact that Giroux has been one of the best players on this team is an indictment on the franchise, but it's also a testament to what he is as a leader and as a player and as a cornerstone piece of what this franchise has been for so long. He went out there, and when this team was playing like absolute dog shit, drug them through games, tried to put the team on his back and win single-handedly, which nobody can do. But he went out there and he tried anyway. You know, like, to me, the best leaders are always the guys that you see in the trenches, and you see them doing exactly what the fuck it is he's going to ask you to do.
2 10-game losing streaks in one season, got 5 coaches fired. He is a mute. This is what the fans think. He's definitely not vocal. I don't know if I'm ready to say that I blame 2 10-game losing streaks on like one
that's not
particular
on
person's.
You can't
lack
put that
of
on one
leadership.
person. It's on the entire team. And to say that he got 5 coaches fired is absolutely asinine. Chris, I appreciate you checking in and watching the show here, but that comment is just asinine.
Well, the team not being good is what got 5 coaches fired. I don't think anyone could actually like look at the teams that they've had and thought that any of them ever had a shot to win a Stanley Cup going into any season. Like every year was kind of like, all right, we might make the playoffs, and like under no circumstances was there any real expectations, maybe other than last year going into the year, where we lost in Game 7 to the Islanders.
And probably the beginning
that,
of this year.
There was never really any particular year,
right,
that this team ever had any expectations. Like I said, the best player they put, and the timeline kind of was fucked up a little bit too, right? Because when Giroux took over as like the guy after they traded Richards and Carter, Briere and Hartnell were still around for like a couple years and teaming them, but they were older and they kind of phased out and left, as G was still in his prime. And then you could have whatever opinion you want on Voracek. He produced points. He didn't score a lot, obviously, so that's something that we've always lacked, especially after Briere left.
At the end of the day,
Simmons
the best
was putting up
player
30, but
they put next to him throughout his prime was Jake Voracek. Great playmaker. Love Jake. Shout out 93. Thank you for everything you've done for the city. But Jake Voracek is not the second best player on a championship team. They've done a terrible job putting a team around him through his entire career, particularly through his prime. And mind you, again, you're mentioning that he's a terrible C, but I have yet to see why you like. Give me an example of why he's a terrible captain. Because
hold on 1 second. Joe Thornton had his C stripped a few years back. I think when Yo took over, that should have happened. Who should take over as captain, or should have taken over as captain if it got stripped? Because if it's going to be Couturier's not vocal either. He's also
hurt,
kind of a mute. So like that guy that you want isn't on this team.
That guy that you want isn't really in the NHL anymore. Most captains in the league aren't vocal leaders anymore. Like the days of a captain in your face in the dressing room to get you fired up are gone. They're gone. There's a handful of guys that can still do that. But for the most part, your modern day NHL captain is your best player. He goes out there, he leads the guys into fire.
Yeah, I mean, at least he says it. Yeah, I mean, that guy that people think of, 4 teams don't have a C. I mean,
right.
I just don't.
And they do a leadership committee, which, by the way, is in every NHL locker room. It's not just the guys with letters on their sweaters that are leading the locker room. Like, for instance, a guy like, say Matt Niskanen, when he didn't have a letter on his sweater, you can't tell me he wasn't a leader in the dressing room.
I do agree that it is definitely his time is definitely up. I definitely agree with that. Especially this year has certainly been the breaking point, and it certainly is pathetic to win only one playoff series in 10 seasons.
Yes, it is. Thanks for
Again, I
listening,
put that
Joe.
more on the team. Like, I don't put that. Like, I'm not putting that much weight into one player's
player.
leadership, into one player. I'm not putting that much weight into one player's leadership
No,
to
it's an indictment on the
carry a team to the
franchise.
playoffs. Like, at the end of the day, these are all grown ass men getting paid to play. So like to have it for his biggest knock to be like not being a vocal captain. Can you imagine if Char was here in his prime?
Yeah, I would have loved to have had
It would
Char
be
here in
like
his prime.
it would be like having Chris Pronger again.
Yeah.
Even probably Pronger being a little younger.
I just like those types of captains don't really exist in the league anymore.
I mean, there are still really, really good captains around the league. But again, it's the amount of weight that I'm putting into like your captain needing to be like this amazing vocal leader into a team's overall success, especially over a decade where, part of that Hextall years, without saying it, they were kind of rebuilding. That's what all these draft picks were supposed to be with Sanheim and Provorov and Konechny and, Robert Hagg.
Correct. And I don't want to spend too much more time on this, but let me just say what the
only
best
thing I will
leaders...
say, real quick, the only thing I will say is there could be an argument that like you would have had a better shot to win with Giroux if you don't trade Richards and Carter.
I
then
agree.
obviously, I mean, Pronger still gets hurt, which still leaves a huge hole regardless. But
Correct.
I think the argument could be had.
Correct. So what was I going to say? You stopped me mid-sentence there.
I'm sorry.
Oh. I don't want to spend too much time on this. I don't want to spend too much more time on this. We've already spent...
I could spend all the time
too much time on it. I know we can. We could spend an entire show talking about this, but there's plenty of other stuff to cover. With that being said, to me, the best leaders are people that delegate what they're not great at. Giroux knows that he's not a great vocal leader. And he knows that there's other guys in the locker room that are. It's okay. I'll lead by example.
I don't think there is, though.
You fire the boys up vocally. The best leaders delegate what they're not great at, and they put great people around them that are good at what they are not good at to uplift them and to uplift the entire team. It's the same in corporate America. It's the same in retail stores, and it's the same in fucking professional sports dressing rooms.
Yeah, and the one thing I will say, if there is like an unwillingness to like call someone out when someone should be called out, like someone in the locker room should be doing that. Obviously, again, that's when they say like he's a mute, like that is probably a knock on him. And like we don't know outside whether or not like he ever calls players out internally.
Right, and I'm not sitting here saying he's the greatest captain in NHL history, but
no.
to put the fact that we've only won one playoff series in his time as a captain here squarely on his shoulders, as opposed to looking at it as what it truly is, which is an indictment upon the entire franchise and their lack of wherewithal and their lack of, for lack of a better term, giving a fuck to put a solid team around this guy. I feel it's just irresponsible.
We did win, that Pittsburgh series wasn't when he was captain. That was post Richards and Carter trade. He wasn't the captain at the time. I think Pronger technically was because he was on the team, but he did get hurt. And then after he became captain, out of those 3 playoff series, the only one we really had a shot to win was against the Rangers in 2014. The year they went to the Cup, oddly enough, we lost in 7 games. The other 2 were against the Capitals, and that was just a bloodbath. We were totally outnumbered. We had Michael Neuvirth and Steve Mason, and neither of them could stay healthy. The other one was against the Penguins, I believe the year they won the Cup. So, again, we were just totally outmatched then as well.
Chris checking in again. He says there is not, though. Simmer and Gudis were the guys.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There is nobody vocal on this team. I 100%.
No, there's not anymore. But you can't put that on Giroux either. Like that's squarely on Chuck Fletcher's shoulders. Again, I don't want to spend too much time on this. Let's move on. I'm just going to close it out by saying, prior to the trade deadline and ahead of Girouxs' 1,000th game.
Well, hold on, just
Thank you,
a
Claude.
little comment for the last one here. He had Voracek, Simmer, JVR, Hartnell. We had decent players. We absolutely did have decent players in that 2012 year where we had them and Briere. We did have a real shot. Brisgalov was just god awful though, and so was the defense. Braden Coburn was aging. He was getting ready to be dealt. So at that particular time, the defense was extremely weak, and I mean Brisgalov was just he was lost in the woods. His words, not mine. Steve Mason 100-foot gaff goal. Yeah, just so many just classic moments. Shawn, I think you muted yourself. Oh, there you go. You're good.
No, I was talking to my wife. I needed her to grab something for me.
All right, let's move on here. What else we got up here? A little bit of trade buzz, I guess, since the deadline is only a few days away.
Absolutely. You want to flash Jesse's comment back up there about the Giroux trade? We'll address that
right
with
here?
the deadline buzz.
Wait, this one right here?
No, Jesse's.
Oh shit.
But we will get to Joe's comment. So realistically, what do you guys think we would receive in a Giroux trade? Realistically, I see a roster player, probably somebody on the younger side with some term. And I see a first-round pick. Now, I could also see a world in which they go for a package of players. But to me, I think whatever they receive in the Giroux trade and the offer that they ultimately end up taking is going to be the biggest telltale sign of how they view this team in the front office and the direction that they want to go. Like they came out obviously a few months ago and they decided that they want to do this hard retool thing. But honestly, like if you get in a Giroux trade, you get like 2 first-rounders, and say like just like a roster player, change of scenery guy, then I think the 2 first-rounders are indicative of their desire for a full-on rebuild.
I mean, I have what I would like to get. I mean, yeah, it's a matter of if it can work out. There's a lot of buzz around Florida right now, and
right, which Jesse alluded to earlier.
Jesse alluded to earlier that Sherratt could be in play, and I think if you could get something like an Owen Tippett and a Sherratt and maybe a second-round pick, that's something that I'd be totally okay with. And Sherratt would be great for this hard retool, and he's only making $3.5 million, and I think he would be, a really good upgrade.
Do you know what the term on his contract is by any chance?
Sherratt?
Yeah.
1 second.
I'm in agreement though. I think if that's the route that they go,
he is a free
hard retool.
He's a free agent next year. So it technically would be a rental.
That's a little tough if you don't have a deal kind of in place. Like I don't think you make that trade unless you know that an extension is on the horizon.
I also don't see I just don't see why Florida would acquire him. Because that's like a pretty good piece. Like if you're trying to make a run to bolster your your blue line. Don't you think? Like I don't know if that's a move that you make the flip. I would be, pretty shocked. But again, anyone who's listened to me talk about this subject, ideally I would want Alex Newhook, but Colorado just traded their second-round pick in 2023, which was really the one because they don't have a first this year. They just traded their second round for 2023 next year, and that's supposed to be
so they don't have the draft capital, so it would have to be a package of players.
And they just acquired Josh Manson from the Ducks, and we'd have to, and with Landeskog being out, like they're kind of pressed up against it too. They kind of have to make a move, and I mean they think that he could be back by the playoffs, which is why they're choosing to have that surgery now. But right now, Florida seems to be, the team with the most buzz around it. And, listen, they're going to make these moves regardless because they are trying to do this hard retool and going out and getting a Sherratt and a young player in a pick in the Giroux trade. I think it would be a win, especially because they're doing this hard retool, whether we like it or not. So to acquire a Sherratt to add to your blue line, I think someone on our blue line is going, whether it's Provorov or Sanheim. And there's been some rumors about Provorov being kind of tough to deal with in the locker room recently. And, controversy around the Ristolainen contract. How about, fucking Ivan Provorov making, 6'7" and is playing the way he's playing. And then you look at Sanheim, who's been, pretty good this year. He's making just under 5. And I just feel like there's a pretty decent amount of money put into, those 3 players on our blue line, and to have the result that we have.
Players that haven't taken the next step on our blue line. We paid them hoping they would take the next step. You pay Provorov hoping he becomes a 1A. Chuck Miller. I live in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, and I have been a diehard Flyers fan since the 70s. My son and I would pay for premium seats right behind the Flyers bench, and there was a game when someone made a selfish boneheaded play, and Giroux absolutely let him have it on the bench. So I think he is vocal when he has to be. Thank you for that testimonial, our good friend Chuck Miller. Check it in all the way from the west coast of Canada, our friend Chuck from the Great White North. Chris checking back in again. We should sue the Nashville doctor. Ellis owes us money. Yes, Ellis has absolutely stolen some money this year. When you make that trade, obviously you're not anticipating that he's only going to play 4 games for you this season. And I would also like to point out, I feel like Provorov looks much different with Ellis next to him. Dare I say, I think that would be one of the better defense pairings in the National Hockey League with a healthy Ryan Ellis.
Yeah. Well, first of all, on the Ryan Ellis thing, you look at Nolan Patrick and Philip Myers, and they're not doing much of anything anyway.
Right, it's not like we lost the trade. It's you hope to get more than 4 games from the guy.
This was a risk. Yeah, this was one of the risks with him. You knew that he was going to miss some time. You just certainly did not think it was going to be, what it has pretty much all game. Sakic won't part ways with Newhook. I heard from the Avalanche it would be Cal Barron and a 2023 first-round pick. I think that's something that you could absolutely pull the trigger on as well. The 2023 first-round pick is extremely valuable because of how stacked next year's draft and deep it's supposed to be. So that would be one of the more valuable pieces if they could get, screw the second-round pick next year. If they can get the first next year, that would be where it's at.
Yeah, well, the other thing you got to remember, too, though, is, if you're getting a first-rounder from Colorado, odds are it's probably not going to be a terribly great pick either. Not that any of these teams will be, but, just something to think about if they end up going on a cup run like they would anticipate with bringing in a guy like Giroux. It's more or less almost like an early second-rounder at that point, so.
All right, moving on. What else we got here? I think okay.
Actually,
so the Risto.
I got one more thing for you on Giroux.
Okay,
and then we'll close it out. Look out for a team nobody's expecting. I don't know who it is, but in my experience as a hockey fan, there's a lot of times when there's buzz from 4, 5, 6 different teams about a player, and then somebody comes up 2 days before the trade deadline, and the rumors are swirling. And you see this across all sports. The team that comes out of nowhere at the end, a lot of the time ends up with the player. So as we get closer to the trade deadline, start to really dial in and pay attention to the rumor mill. And as for Chris's comment, can you imagine if G goes to the Pens? I don't even want to think about that. I don't think the Flyers want to think about that. And I can almost guarantee you that they would never trade him in division, let alone to the Pittsburgh Penguins.
No, they would never do it. He wouldn't agree to it. First of all, that's number one. He
Right,
would
he's got the
never
no move
agree to go
clause.
there. I'd rather
Plus, there's the
fucking
whole
die
him and Crosby
than to
thing.
see
Like,
that.
those guys aren't playing together.
No, fuck that. Like, him leaving and, like, me being a fan of his kind of sucks, but I know it has to happen for the betterment of the team and for him, but, like, that, no.
Yeah, that's just a nightmare.
So, the Risto extension, we haven't had a chance to talk about this together since it happened. I want to let you go first.
Absolutely. So real quick, let's just give everybody the information on the contract. It's a $5.1 million AAV over 5 years. I don't think it's a terrible contract. He's been one of the better defensemen on the team. He's nasty. He's mean. Plays physical. Something that we've really been lacking prior, to his acquisition. And I think moving forward, if we can address some of the top pair issues that we've had, particularly getting a healthy Ryan Ellis back next season, I think having a guy like Ellis to anchor the first pair, I think Risto can anchor a second pair all day long. He was a first pair guy in Buffalo. Obviously, they're not the greatest team, so I wouldn't say that he's a first pair guy, but he can definitely anchor your second pair. And I think 5.1 for a guy that's going to anchor your second pairing, in my opinion, is I don't want to say it's a bargain, but I think it's what he's worth. I know your feelings on this are drastically different.
Listen, I don't want to rip Ristolainen because I don't dislike
do.
him, and no, I don't. I like elements of his game that he brings. Obviously, the physicality and the toughness, and making it the other team maybe a little
What about his
hesitant to go
shot?
into
Because
the
he's got an
corner.
absolute rocket of a shot, and if they put him on the fucking
Yeah,
power play a little bit
that's
more,
fine.
you'd get to see that fucking
throughout
rocket from the point.
throughout his whole career, he's never really been a great producer on the power play. He's not going to start now at age 27, but I don't mind it if they move some things around. If they bring in a Ben Sherrod who's making 3.5, and they were able to ship Provorov out and clear up, and save $3 million and get better play, then okay, I can live with it. But I fear putting a nice chunk of money into a underperforming defense, and that's kind of what I see right now that we're doing.
Right, but why not pay the one guy that's been a bright spot on what has otherwise been a horrendous, abysmal blue line?
How much of a bright spot has he been? Like, you know what I mean? It's just like, if you look around, if you look at some of the guys who are getting paid $5 million right now, like, and like how good, like Jacob Slavin is making like 5.2. He's a 1. Like, Shea Theodore is making 5.2. Alec Martinez is making 5.2, given he's hurt right now. But like Charlie McAvoy's making 4.
You also have to take into consideration when these guys sign these deals and what the position was valued at that particular time. Then you look at guys like Alex Pietrangelo. I believe he is making just under $9 million a year. And let me ask you this: would you rather have 2 Rasmus Ristolainens, or would you rather have 1 Alex Pietrangelo? I'd rather have 2 Rasmus Ristolainens.
I want 1 Alex Pietrangelo all day, every
Why?
day.
Then you're top heavy.
I mean, I don't think Ristolainen is that
You want a
good.
top heavy roster?
I would trade 2 Ristolainens for one of the best defensemen in the game. Yes, hands down. Like, I look around at like good teams, and I look at, their top 4s, and like for almost all of them, I'm not 100%, I don't think Ristolainen would upgrade the top 4s. And like a lot of them aren't paying their 4 5.1. I guess, some of them are paying them like around 4, maybe 4.5, but like when you look around at some of these depth charts, especially for decent teams, like it's questionable whether or not Ristolainen would crack those top fours. And if he's if he's more of a 4-5 than a 4-3, like I just think it's a lot of money. And you have to get a lot better in other areas, especially with a hard retool. I mean, I just don't know what kind of finagling they're going to be doing this offseason because, you trade Giroux and you pay 50% of his salary for the rest of this year, fine. And then he's off the books and you have all this money off the books. Well, Couturier and Farabee are both getting raises next year. That's pretty much going to take away any money that you're saving from getting Giroux off the books next year. And I don't know. I think it's is he worth $5 million just for being big, physical, and right-handed? Like, is that what we're paying him to be? Because
Right-handed defensemen are at a premium in the NHL right now.
I get it, but we need a lot of things. We need more centers. We need a first-line winger.
I would love to see the numbers on what right-handed defensemen are making. Because they're at a premium right now. Like, there's not a whole lot of them out there.
I don't know. I understand it is certainly helpful in situations.
Hey.
Having him.
I mean, don't get me wrong.
Right-handed guy.
2 years ago, yeah, I think Rasmus Ristolainen is a fucking, like a $4.2, $3.9 million kind of a player. But right now, with the current state of the league and with a right-handed shot defenseman being as valuable as it is, more valuable than it's ever been, I feel like it's just the Flyers are victims of unfortunate circumstances, and Rasmus Ristolainen is the benefactor of that. At the end of the day, though, you got to pay what the guy's worth, and if the market dictates that that's what he's worth, then that's what you have to pay. Otherwise, that's one more hole that you have to fill.
He's never been to market. Like, when we got him from Buffalo.
If you look at the market and you see what other guys of similar caliber that are right-hand shot defensemen are making, then I would assume that he's right in line with that.
I get that he's right-handed. It's important, but I just don't think he does a lot of things very well. Like, he was way out of position on that tying goal. He's not very good at passing. He doesn't have very good zone exit. Like, again, other than being physical, big, and right-handed, like, is that what we're paying him for? Like, is that it? Because he's not very good at, like, all the other things.
You make a valid point.
And again, I don't mind him having it on my team. Like, it's not like I'm saying we need to get Ristolainen. Our defense stinks because Ristolainen. That's not what I'm saying. But I see him more as closer to like a 4-5, making less money, playing with like maybe a 3 that's a little overpaid.
All right.
I don't know. We'll see. Again, next year the Flyers could finagle this offseason, put together a really nice retool. They could come back next year, be really good. And Ristolainen could make me look like an asshole, and I would love nothing more than for that to happen. And you know that. I would love to be I would love for him to make me look stupid.
I have one thing to say to you, and then we'll move on. Except I'm getting a cramp in my fucking thigh. Oh my god. Kev, fill some time here. I'm hurt.
What's going on?
I'm playing hurt.
Have you been hydrating? Have you drank any water or just whiskey? Like, you got to hydrate, dude.
Dude, I drank like a half gallon of water today. Oh my god, that's terrible. That was bad. That was so bad. Oh man. All right.
I love the extension. We need that style of play. I agree with that. Him and Sanheim have easily been the best pair. I also agree with that. But they have been the best pair, but that's like being the skinniest kid at fat camp on this team. Okay? That's how I feel about it. Okay? You've been the best pair. What else we got here? Okay. You think that's a lot of money when you think Seth Jones, LOL, he isn't worth $9 million? No, I also would no way have paid Seth Jones $9 million either. Yeah, that's not.
No, I think Chicago paid him that kind of money because they needed to put asses in seats, especially after the whole Kyle Beach thing.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I didn't want them to go sign I didn't want them to go sign Dougie Hamilton either for similar money. But we also
Dougie
had
Hamilton's a great defense.
that was at the time though, where our perspective on what this defense could be was different because
By the way,
thought
speaking of guys,
Reinels would be here most of the season.
Speaking of guys they could have signed, and you mentioned Dougie Hamilton. If you remember correctly, I was a strong proponent of trying to bring Tony D'Angelo in. Just saying. He's having a hell of a year in Carolina.
Well, I think he's out for the year now.
What I was going to say before my injury, don't underestimate what a strong player or what a strong partner can do for a defenseman. And a prime example of that is Ivan Provorov. Look at what Provorov was next to Niskanen. Look at what Provorov was next to Braun. Two completely different players.
He's had his career's been 50-50. He's had
I
some
get
good seasons and some really shitty seasons.
I'm sorry. This is about Ristolainen.
Okay.
So if he's with a solid line mate, if he's with a solid guy that's paired with him, he could look drastically different. Playing with somebody that's more your skill level, because if we're being honest, Sanheim, well, he's a solid-ish defenseman who's relatively creative on the offensive end. Like he's not a second pair NHL defenseman.
I think and I'm not a big Travis Sanheim guy, but I think Sanheim has been a big part of why Ristolainen has looked as good as he has. I think they complement each other well. I think they both do help each other, but I think in terms of like a puck possession standpoint and being able to transition up ice, I think Sanheim has, kind of carried the load in that sense.
Well, that's his game, though.
Again, I'm not a huge fan of him either. He's making almost, he's making almost 5. I'm not a huge fan of him either. So
no, I get it. Well, and that harkens back to my point earlier. He's one of those guys that you paid anticipating that he was going to take a step forward, and he just hasn't.
Well, he probably wanted more. He probably wanted more of what Ristolainen got. That's why it had to go. It almost went to arbitration.
Correct. All right, you ready to move on?
Just the last thing here, not much about this, but Scott Lawton, who got a concussion the other night, could practice with the team on Thursday. He's not ready to play, but he could be back on the ice skating with the team, which will be nice to see.
Absolutely. Lawtz is another guy that's been a bright spot in an abysmal season. Huge Scott Lawton guy, high motor guy. He shows up in big time moments. So. Huge Lawtz guy. Again, there's a reason he was untouchable at the deadline a few years ago. So, anxious to get him back in the lineup.
Yeah, that's it for me. I don't know if you had anything else. We can end it there if you want.
Yeah, you want to just dive into final thoughts?
Yeah. Oh shit. Yeah. Final thoughts.
Do we have a sponsor for this one? I think we have 2 sponsors left.
We got a few. I'll play them right after the final thoughts, but it's almost over. The deadline's here. This is the exciting time of the year. This was what we've been looking forward to, get some type of excitement. The deadline is here, so I'm really excited about that. It's only a few days away. It's going to be very interesting to see how everything plays out.
That's all you got?
Yeah, that's about it.
Okay, I'm going to be a little bit more long-winded.
Go for it. I love it. Give it to me.
Claude Girouxs' 1000th game tomorrow against Nashville. We would have previewed that game a little bit more, but we kind of got into a pretty heated Giroux debate, and we're coming up on an hour here, so don't want to keep you guys around too long. I know everybody's got work in the morning. Appreciate Claude Giroux while he's still here. Remember the good times, forget about the bad. Flyer for life. 1,000 games in orange and black. Also, look for Derek Brassard to be a trade target for a lot of teams. He's proven to be what will ultimately be a scoring third line center.
Like a
He's
nice
somebody that
depth
a lot of
boost.
teams would be looking to add for depth, moving forward into the playoffs here. So I think Brassard's another guy that might be getting ready to move on. Which shout out to Chuck Fletcher because that was a great value signing to bring Derek Brassard in here, and he's in a downtrodden year, he's definitely brought some he's definitely brought a little bit of excitement to the season. So
Hell yeah, brother.
absolutely. I think I had one last thing I wanted to touch on. I can't remember. Oh, back to Giroux.
Oh, more Giroux talk. Okay.
This just my final thought. And Claude, I'm talking to you. I know you're a huge fan of the show.
We got one more comment here. Remember the good times? Please tell me some good times in Claude
Bobby,
Giroux's
we've had this
9 years
argument before,
as captain.
Bobby, we've
Hey,
had this
when they
argument
beat
before.
Pittsburgh in the first round when we had Briskalov, that was great and that felt great. After that, it was pretty downhill, but
The shift. That's all I have to say, Bobby. The
team
shift.
stunk. The team stunk.
Yes, shitty team put around him.
We
But
could argue
yes,
about this
Bobby,
all
we've
day.
had this argument before. I don't have the time, patience, nor the crayons to explain this to you. I appreciate you listening, but yeah, we're coming up on my bedtime here, and I could go on about Giroux for probably another hour. But
Thanks for your
with
comment,
that
Bob.
being said, Claude, thank you for everything you've done for the city. Thank you for putting it all and leaving it all out on the ice and doing everything that you've done for this franchise, regardless of their ineptitude to put a solid team around you for as long as you've been here. You're a Flyer for life as far as I'm concerned, and you'll always be one of my favorite hockey players. I hope you get a chance to win a Stanley Cup this year because nobody deserves it more than you do. With that being said, guys, we're going to wrap up the last little bit of business here. Got a
Very
few
well
more
said,
ad
Shawn.
reads to get to for you, unless Kevin's got to touch on that.
Yeah. I'll knock some of these out. We are brought to you by Girouxs Custom Clothing. Go to lugaroo.co to get any type of jersey made. Jesse just had one made for Flyers Alley.
Got
Came out
a
really nice.
Jawn Street hockey jersey
Yeah.
coming for me soon with the mayor on
Hell
it.
yeah. We are
Kev,
also
you'd
brought
get a
to you
jersey,
by...
but you don't have an awesome nickname like I do.
No, I'm fine with that. Brought to you by Sterling Pig Brewery in Media, PA. They got some great craft beers over there. Make sure you check them out.
I got a few up in my fridge now.
We are also brought to you by Pike's Pub in Southampton, PA. Me and Shawn will be doing a live show there on Tuesday, the 22nd. 2 this month. Yes, one is on Tuesday, the 22nd, and the 29th. I'm not sure exactly what day the 29th
Yes, the
is.
very following Tuesday. So it's a week apart, 22nd and 29th. We'll be out at Pike's Pub drinking the coldest draft beers in Southampton and Lower Bucks County, Pennsylvania.
From our buddy Adam here. Love the respect for Giroux, most underappreciated Philly athlete of all time. Couldn't agree more.
And we
well
love
said.
and appreciate your respect for Claude Giroux, Adam. Thank you so much for listening and commenting.
We are also brought to you by Neshaminy Creek Brewery in Croydon, Pennsylvania. Make sure you get out there and check out their Jawn, one of their craft beers. And then last but not least...
Whoa. Babyface.
Well,
You're not going to read Norse Beards, are you?
I've been growing it back in about a
You
week
got
or so.
5 o'clock
I'll
shadow.
be ready to
Let
go.
me take this one. Okay.
Well,
ladies and gentlemen, if you
no.
want a luscious beard like mine, like Jesse Bell, the Admiral, or like Jake Long from Sundays for the Birds and for Murmble Fumble Live, don't forget to check out our good buddies over at Norse Beards. That's Norse, Norse, beards.com. Use the promo code OCS for 25% off your entire order from our good friends at Norse Beards. Make sure you let them know Jawn Street Hockey and Old City Sports Network sent you.
And that's the last one. That we are finally done the ad reads, everybody.
That's all we got for you guys. We appreciate the hell out of everybody for rocking with us live here on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube Live, and for everybody listening and supporting the show over on the audio only side. We appreciate the hell out of you guys. Thanks for checking in. Thanks for commenting. Thanks for rocking with us. For Kevin, this is the mayor. Thank you so much. We love you guys. We're out.
Bye, everyone.